I'm very proud that I'm a Métis person. I really am.
We are definitely a group with our own entity.
I did not realize how huge the Métis culture is in terms of people that come from that background.
We're unique, and we bring strength as people. We bring strength in our dances, in our customs, in our family, in our history.
It took years for people to realize that there is Métis, and we should be proud of our Métis heritage.
If we believe in something, then we'll try to make it happen in a good way.
Well, I was born Métis, so I was always Métis. I never had to learn about it or anything.
We need to stand up and kind of be accountable for who we are as a nation and as a people.
It's taken me, it's about 20 years, and I really am proud of my Métis heritage. I'm proud of being a half-breed.
I think the part for me that's most important is that I am recognized as a person and as a Métis person.
There's a sense of pride. People are not having to be ashamed of who they are.
But it took a lot of growing into myself to come to realize my heritage.
I think there's a lot of misconception around what it is to be a Métis person.
In French, Métis means mixed blood. But then if you go into the Cree language, Apitaukosaza means, half-breed. You're half this and half that. And it's not a derogatory word in our culture, in our language.
You're not halfway there, halfway the other way. You're in the middle, you're Métis.
It's so encompassing, I guess, that it can take in, whether you're French, Scotch, or Irish, or English, and whichever nation that you married into or the nation that you kind of belong to.
You can have European blood, French blood, Irish blood. It's mostly with Cree.
Years ago, as a half-breed, we had a stigma behind the word half-breed. And I wasn't very comfortable being called a half-breed, so I changed my identity.
After I got married, and like my husband, he's Métis too, and he said that, he says, you're not half-breed, he says, you're Métis.
But identifying myself as a Métis person makes me feel proud.
But it's nice to feel proud to be both and to be identified as one at the same time.
Well, I guess the most important thing for me as a Métis person is that I have the best of two worlds.
My proudest moment is when I actually got my Métis card. It symbolized who I was.
I see there's a rising up of the Métis people.
Now, I'm strictly Métis. That's what I am.
So Métis, mixed blood, it goes a long way. For a lot of the Métis, the Michif, it all depends on what area you come from. For most of the people in the Red River settlement, I guess a lot of the Michif language that they spoke was French, English, and Cree.
It's a hard language to learn unless you have your base, either your French or your Cree base.
I remember when I was growing up, everybody spoke Michif, Cree in my community.
It's difficult because there's so many different dialects.
Around the Red River settlement and where I come from, if you look at Michif, there could be a mixture of Assiniboine, Sioux, Cree, Soto.
My sister, she never lost it, my oldest sister, because she's amongst people that she talks to all the time.
My mother and stepfather, they just spoke the Michif and Cree and French and just amongst each other. They never taught us.
Meaning, and it brings you more to the culture. And I guess, that's why the old people always say is that, the culture is the language, and the language is the culture. So if you lose your language, you lose part of your culture.
I think introduction to the schools at an elementary level is crucial
About 10 years ago, there was only about 200 speakers left. So now they're trying to revive that. And in doing so, I mean, they're bringing back more and more of the culture.
For our younger generations, they're definitely becoming more aware of this other culture out there.
Trying to revive it is really difficult, but they're working on it.
And one of the keys for the resurgence of the power within the Métis community is, again, to revive the language.
Well, it's a type of dancing. It's kind of hard to explain.
Our Red River Jig is our traditional Métis music.
We used to go to dances, and it was always in the home. Like, you know, we never had halls or anything like that. Somebody would come around and say, okay, we're going to have a dance at, you know, so-and-so. And it usually was my uncles or friends.
You hear the fiddle playing and the spoons just going and people's feet just moving and you see them dancing.
There was always somebody that had the fiddle.
When they would be jigging, you could just feel the excitement and the pride.
And we would all be dancing with the parents and like nobody had partners. They just danced, you know.
There'd be a million kids, but we had fun.
Basically, it's red in color with different lines going through different colors, and they all have their own meaning.
A lot of the colors, I think if you look at the medicine wheel, a lot of the colors that are in the Métis sash represent the 4 directions and the 4 races.
If they were needed to sew, they would pull off strings to use it for thread.
I've seen it in terms of at the jigging. I've seen it in batoche, where, you know, the men and the women and the children wore it proudly.
Usually they had a really highly beaded pipe bag or some kind of a little pouch, you know, attached to that to kind of dress it up and make it look a little fancier.
They use it for belts, they use it for to tie their horse, they use it to haul wood, they use it for even for a scarf.
It's a piece of our regalia that is universally recognized.
In the Métis functions, you see the women wearing their sashes diagonally, and you see the men wearing it so proudly around their bellies or their stomachs, and you see that pride, and it's very significant to the Métis culture. Les wagons, we used to call them les wagons, and the wagons.
You can always tell the Métis, who the Métis people are by the Red River cart. That's one of their symbols.
The wheels were really big because the prairies had a lot of potholes and stuff like that. So I mean, the wheels were that big so that they could go through these holes a lot easier without getting stuck.
I remember my dad pulling one.
I do know with the Red River cart that they use that for means of travel.
They had the 2 boys and him, and they'd pull the Red River cart and would move some stuff.
The cart was a mode that they could of transportation, but it was also to carry a lot of their goods, and they used it to carry supplies when they went on their spring hunts or their fall hunts.
At that time, I don't even know if we knew it was a Red River cart, but like, you know, it was made the same way as the Red River cart, so it must have been the Red River cart.
But it also served as if they come to a river and they wanted to go downriver, then they could take those wheels off and put them on the side, and they could use the cart as a raft to get them down the river. I think the Métis people, because most of them were hunters and trappers and lived off the land, and they followed more of the traditional lifestyle of their native family.
Our staples were moose meat and whitefish.
We had moose, and plus we have, you know, my mom used to cook beaver.
My stepfather hunted. We ate a lot of duck eggs or ducks.
You know, we grew up on moose meat, we grew up on deer meat, we grew up on rabbit stew.
Give me rabbit and I'll cook it any way you can. Because we were raised that way, you know, how to survive.
And I remember as a kid, my grandmother and all my aunts and uncles and all the kids would go out berry picking. And I remember grandmother would always offer something, and I never really understood what she was doing until way later on. Because they always say you got to give before you take. And she was really adamant that we didn't take and strip the bushes of all the berries, because she said we needed to leave some for the birds and the bears and other animals that needed that. So we only took what we could from that tree, but also leaving enough there for the animals.
Because we were very poor, we grew up with a lot of bannock. We grew up with soups or vegetables from the garden.
We had a big garden. That's one thing. We had a big garden, and all the kids worked in the garden. And we had our own, like, potatoes, vegetables, and stuff like that.
So basically we lived off the land and grew a lot of vegetables.
Even in today's society, I mean, people are still hunting and gathering.
In my mind, elders are there to continue on the teachings, the understanding of respect.
Well, I have a hard time being called an elder.
If people in the community are recognizing you as an elder, then you need to respect that and go with it.
I forget that I am because I'm just so busy involved with other things.
I'm proud to be a Métis elder.
They used to tell stories, and they'd all, they sit around and reminisce, and I think I do that now with my grandkids. So maybe that's part of being elder.
So I think the learning of the actual culture and where it's come from helps to bring that identity forward and helps to make myself more proud of who I am and where I've come from.
It's about standing tall and saying, you know what, I am a Métis person and I take this true and I hold this dear to me.
When the Métis are having some of their cultural occasions happening around in the community, you can go to them and then you can start learning, and then you get to know people in the different Métis organizations.
It's good to be Métis.
In getting united and maintaining that unity, that's where our strength is going to continue to build for our children and our grandchildren.
It just makes your blood feel good. You feel like you're such a big part of society. And the Métis people are rising up. Education is the key.
I am Métis.
I am Métis.
I am Métis.
It's French and Aboriginal background.
I am Métis.
I am Métis.
I am Métis. I am Métis. Kishitemoyan and Lemachifwian. I am Métis.
Les Métis, kawya pakti, kwayest kapasakong tsunaw, kwayes kamamihitsunaw kawi, kino akon metos katama, kwaktuasim snanak minataks na hmaya ko.